Good morning, welcome to Snowdonia Antiques. I'm here today to show you how to set up a Longcase clock. The clock that we'll be using today will be one that's made here in Llanrwst by John Owen, dating to 1765. Firstly, when you receive the clock, it will be complete as you see here. Remove the hood by sliding it forward and place the hood down safely out of the way so it clears the area. You need a spirit level, which we'll place onto here, and some of these wedges. And the wedges will be provided and put inside a little plastic bag inside the box with the works, the weights. As you can see on this, the clock itself has slight movement in it. What we need to do is to be able to fix that movement, keep it steady, but make sure that the clock is actually square. Take one of the wedges, place it underneath the front foot. The floor is uneven, and what will happen is the clock itself now is balanced out. Front to back, it's fine as well. The reason why we do this is when the actual clock itself is set up and the works goes into place, the last thing that we want is the pendulum to rub against the backboard, because if it rubs against the backboard, or if it's leaning too far forward, it'll hit the weights, and either one will stop the clock. Take the pendulum, place it inside the clock. Here's the works and dial. As you can see with our clocks, we always send the clock off with the actual string or the catgut wrapped around the seat board. Remove it and unwind it on both sides. Now holding on to the catgut or the stringing, lift it up and drop it inside the clock. Place the works in the recess, keeping one hand on the back of the seat board to make sure the clock doesn't tilt forward, and feed the pendulum up through the crutch, which I'll show you in a second. Feed it in through the back of the anchor point at the top. You see on the back of this works, you'll see there the pendulum is being fed up through here, which is the crutch, and will sit at the anchor point. At the back of the anchor point here, there is a little split. This little piece of sprung steel that's at the top of the pendulum and is extremely delicate slides into there with the block on the top of the sprung steel resting on the crutch, or on the anchor point. Once you've done that, the clock is now balanced and it shouldn't tilt forward and drop the works out the recess. Take the hood and replace the hood. Make sure that the weights aren't on this while you're doing it, because it makes it more difficult. And you can align the works itself inside the mask so that there's an equal spacing all the way around. This is the mask and this is the door. Take the weights. Now our drive weight, we always put a little piece of tape on it so we know which weight actually drives the clock and which weight actually drives the strike. The drive side of the clock is on the right hand side, so the winding hole relates to that weight, and then the strike side is on the left hand side as you face the clock. Take the string and the catgut from inside, place one over the drive side over the door so it keeps it out of the way. Place the other one inside. Looking for the winder, I know it's here. Hold on to the catgut and keep it quite taut. Place the winder in the hole And then what will happen is, when you wind the clock, make sure that you keep your eyes down the side of the clock so you can actually see the cord winding onto the drum. When you wind it, you'll feel that the cord's actually feeding through your hand. It's lifting. And when it gets to about halfway, stop. And there's a hook on the top of the weight, which will fit onto the pulley itself, onto the little wheel. You leave it just hanging there. Don't wind it all the way up to the top just yet. Take the drive side, do the same with the drive side. Again, looking down the side of the clock and making sure that the cord is feeding onto the drum evenly. Again, the hook is here and it attaches onto the pulley wheel. Once it's done, you can wind the clock fully all the way up to the top. One thing you'll notice as the clock rises, the actual pulley wheel, you'll be able to see, when the hood's on it, you won't be able to see it, but you can see it at the moment. You can see the pulley wheel itself coming up and just going to hit the underneath of the C-cord. When the weight starts to disappear underneath this ledge, you'll know just to slow down as far as winding the clock's concerned, because it's not far from actually finishing the wind. This clock is slightly different to a normal brass dial because it's got this thing called a rolling moon, which is at the top here. There's a little ratchet on the rolling moon which will push the rolling moon forward every single, one day, every single day of the month. If you move that along just slightly and you hear it clicking, then you know that ratchet's still in place and it hasn't slid off. The date wheel is down here, and if you go in from the front to the back, you can adjust the date wheel from front to back. Or if you have little fingers, just wet your finger a little bit and you can move it through the front here. Now the clock's all set up, you can move the pendulum. You should be able to see her ticking away. And see the inside of the clock. Now the time is as it is now, say 11:15. What you'll find is that the clock may be out. Here it says 9:10 because it was 9:10 when we dismantled the clock to move it into place. Now what we do is we move the finger around and you'll come to about 10:52 and you'll hear a clunking noise. On this one it's very, very slight. What that is the clock is actually selecting the strike at the back